evidence of Taliban killings, detentions and intimidation is emerging across Afghanistan, contradicting the hardline Islamist group's pledge earlier this week not to seek revenge against its opponents. With reports of the Taliban going door-to-door looking for people who worked with the former Afghan government or Western countries, claims are also emerging of Taliban fighters torturing and killing members of the ethnic minority in Afghanistan after storming their villages last month. Amnesty International said its researchers had spoken to witnesses in Ghazni province who told how the Taliban killed 9 Hazaras in Mundarak village between July 4th and 6th. Hazara are Shia Muslims who were previously persecuted by the Taliban and who have made great progress in education and social status in recent years. Anes Kalamurd, head of Amnesty International, said the brutality of the killings was a reminder of the Taliban's past record and a chilling indicator of what a Taliban government might bring. Rights groups say more killings may go unreported as the Taliban cut cell phone services in many of the areas they captured to prevent the images from being published. In a separate incident, Taliban fighters killed a relative of an Afghan journalist working for German broadcaster Deutsche Welle they were looking for in western Afghanistan. The broadcaster revealed that their home was raided by 3 of his reporters again. There have been reports of protesters being killed in several cities in recent days, and of beatings and intimidation of those trying to flee the country, not least around the airport in Kabul. Commenting on the Deutsche Welle case, Katja Gloger, of Germany's Reporters Without Borders division, said, "Unfortunately, this confirms our worst fears. The brutal actions of the Taliban show that the lives of independent media workers in Afghanistan are in acute danger." Right. Many Afghans fear a return to tough Taliban rule in the late 1990s, when the group largely confined women to their homes, banned television and music, cut off the hands of suspected thieves and carried out public executions. Those concerns were underscored by a report written by Norway's Ripto Center for Global Analysis, which provides information to the United Nations, which said the militants were screening people en route to Kabul airport. The executive director of Ripto said the organization was aware of several threatening letters sent to Afghanistan, including a man taken from his apartment in Kabul this week by the Taliban. "We have access to hard copies of concrete papers issued and stamped by the Taliban Military Commission to this effect," Christian Nelleman said. Joe Biden suggested Thursday that between 50,000 and 65,000 Afghans may be at risk from the new regime, and Western military leaders pledged to redouble their efforts to evacuate those desperate to flee. A NATO official revealed that about 18,000 people had been flown out. In a new sign of urgency, Germany said it would send 2 light helicopters to help evacuate residents in the Kabul area after a German was shot and injured while driving to the airport. However, most Afghans are unable to leave their homeland and those who may be in danger have no clear way out, the UN Refugee Agency said on Friday. Shebia Mantou, spokeswoman for the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR, repeated calls to neighboring countries to keep their borders open to allow people to seek asylum, in light of what she called a growing crisis. Growing concern over the pace of evacuations, and threats to those trying to flee, were addressed by NATO foreign ministers on Friday. During the virtual meeting, ministers expressed concern over the major event and called for an immediate end to the violence, amid reports of serious human rights abuses across Afghanistan. Reuters reports that the U.S. State Department is expected to announce that evacuation flights from Kabul will now be able to land in Europe, due to the abundance of people in Qatar. With thousands still thronging the airport, the Taliban urged unity before Friday prayers, calling on imams to persuade people not to leave Afghanistan. On Saturday, a Taliban official told Reuters they would take responsibility for his actions and investigate reports of retaliation and atrocities committed by members. "We have heard of several cases of atrocities and crimes against civilians," said the official, who spoke on condition of anonymity. "If members of the Taliban do this law and order issue, they will be investigated. We can understand panic, stress and anxiety. People thought we wouldn't be held accountable, but that's not going to happen." Criticism of the speed and execution of evacuations has intensified in recent days amid images of chaos and desperation, and evidence of often arbitrary rules that have excluded large numbers of people from working for Western countries. The Dutch Foreign Minister, Sigrid Kaag, said countries were struggling to track evacuation flights by their nationals. Due to the chaos at the airport, we currently don't have a clear picture of where the planes belonging to our people, or nationals of other European countries or NATO allies, or Afghan personnel. No country has them, Kaag said. In a further blow to the credibility of the Biden administration, which claims it cannot predict the speed of the collapse of Afghan government forces, the Wall Street Journal claims a State Department cable dated July 13 warns of the Taliban's rapid gain of territory and the subsequent collapse of Afghan security forces, and offers recommendations on ways to reduce crises and expedite evacuations. In a more hopeful sign, a State Department spokesman Ned Price said in Washington that 6,000 people had been allowed to evacuate as of Thursday and were expected to board military flights in the coming hours. That would mark a huge improvement from the previous days. Biden will speak about the evacuation effort on Friday, having faced much criticism over the Trump administration's handling of the troop withdrawal, not least the lack of planning for what is sure to be a massive rescue effort. The Biden government in particular is under pressure to expand the scope of its efforts after it emerged that several European troops, including a team of elite French police, crossed Taliban lines and entered the streets of Kabul to rescue civilians. An official familiar with talks with the Taliban said the group did not plan to make any decisions or announcements about a new government until after the U.S. withdrawal date of August 31 had passed. The official said the Taliban's lead negotiator, Anas Haqqani, had told former government interlocutors that the insurgent movement had an agreement with the U.S. to do nothing until after the last withdrawal date.